The young do not know enough to be prudent, and therefore they attempt the impossible and achieve it generation after generation.
College students were the next generation, preparing to inherit the world and its responsibilities and problems. We have a lot of potential and a lot of passion. But for as much as people look to us with hope for the future, just as many people look down on college students. For years, college students have gotten a bad reputation.
UD has kind of a reputation as being a little bit apathetic in terms of, its political engagement, in terms of, how animated its students are.
I don't think people are that driven to do things, and I think you kind of have to twist people's arms.
I feel like the everyday student, including myself, is more apathetic.
If you go up to any student, I feel that you'll be more likely to get an answer, or they'll more likely talk about the Teen Mom episode or the Jersey Shore episode than like a political debate that just happened or a bill that just passed.
The fact of the matter is, you guys don't vote in huge numbers anyway, so you don't know that, you don't care.
In addition to apathetic, college students are also branded as partiers.
UD students, when they come here, they're very either academically focused or party focused.
That's the problem. That's why you got this apathy here. Everybody drinks too much, right? Thirsty Thursday and all the rest.
You gotta fight for your right to party. Hypocrite smokes 2 packs a day.
But how accurate are these stereotypes? Would all students rather party and play beer pong than take a stand in a political or social issue? Are we really apathetic or just misunderstood?
America has a long, rich history of student activism. In a culture ravaged with political despair and a disconnect between the government from its citizens, the 1960s helped bring about an emergence of student revolts.
There wasn't that much in the way of freedom of speech. There was still the old atmosphere of the McCarthy era, and people were just afraid of anything controversial, and so there was a feeling like it's time to change. And so SDS certainly went off that energy.
In the 1960s, an organization called the Students for a Democratic Society, or SDS, was launched at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. They were known for their activists, educators, and agitators. The SDS was started in 1966 at the University of Delaware. Although they were already doing work for the civil rights movement around the country, it wasn't until they started working on a student rights issue that it blossomed at the UD campus.
What really moved us into action was the civil rights movement. The movement of African Americans in the South and other parts of the country, but especially in the South, looking at nonviolent civil disobedience, looking at people taking great risks for a really valid purpose.
After SDS gained control, they began to have weekly meetings in which 20 to 80 people would attend. It was here at these meetings that they began to organize many of their protests.
Basically, they used issues that were of interest to the students. Martin Luther King had started to speak out against the war, and we had something we called Vietnam Summer, where all these SDSers and other people went into Wilmington and went around knocking on doors, and this is something that I think sort of Martin Luther King had called for, to basically organize and to meet people and to organize street meetings to discuss the war. And so there was a very big connection between the civil rights movement and our civil rights hero, a person like Martin Luther King, and the anti-war movement.
Another thing the SDS organized was several protests against the ROTC at Delaware. Like many universities throughout the country, the University of Delaware required male students to be in it for the first 2 years of school. This became a huge controversy, especially after the Vietnam War. So in order to protest the ROTC, the SDS did 2 things. The first was the funeral for the class of '68.
Stayed up all night smoking cigarettes and making this coffin. It was at a false bottom, but it looked like a coffin, you know, the old-fashioned coffin shape, and painted it black. And so then we started, you know, marching up and down the mall between classes. Well, at 12 o'clock, all the ROTC cadets were marching up to North Campus where they were going to be holding their drill. So they walked by and they see us doing this thing before class. They're carrying this thing down, and oh God, these ROTC cadets, they all start closing in, you know, and then you have this really surreal tug of war with these guys in uniforms pulling on this coffin.
The confrontation with ROTC during the funeral of the class of '68 outraged many students. The SDS, along with others on campus, decided to actually confront the draft directly.
So they had a demonstration at the drill, and some people, I'm not sure whether they planned to in advance or not, walked onto the drill. And so the university wanted to discipline those who did it, and they weren't sure all who did it. They grabbed a few people, suspended them, and they went and all signed these confessions. I marched on the field. You know.
Feelings of outrage wasn't limited to the University of Delaware. Throughout the country, there were students in uproar. One of the most famous instances happened on May 4th, 1970, at Kent State University. Hundreds of students were protesting the American invasion of Cambodia when the U.S. National Guard came. After a small scuffle, the National Guard fired 67 bullets upon the unarmed student protesters, killing 4 students and injuring 9 more. Between May and June of 1970, after the Kent State massacre, 4 million students throughout the country held strikes and protested the tragic event, making it the largest strike in American history. Much of the student activism wound down when President Richard Nixon withdrew American forces in 1975. The arrival of the new millennium brought more global awareness in student activism. People started trying to raise local and national awareness of humanitarian consequences in Darfur. And similar to the 60s and early 70s, students began to protest the American wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Global warming became a huge focal point for student activism.
Global warming has become a huge focal point for student activism. As of 2008, Al Gore has hopped on the sustainable bandwagon, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Angelina Jolie in tow, resurrecting the cultural notion of going green. Yet while such celebrities and lawmakers have been slowly endorsing sustainable sanctions in the recent years, we are left wondering if college students see environmentalism as merely just a fad.
We hear a lot about environmental issues in our classes, and it really makes us want to do something about it.
Environmentalism arguably began with the dawn of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in the 1960s. But have we been silent about environmentalism for too long?
So it took over a century for the problems to occur. It's going to take decades to clean it all up.
The scientific jargon surrounding the issues of water quality, recycling, pollution, and environmentalism on the whole at times clouds motivation to act for such issues. Though, as Professor McKay Jenkins found out, being aware of toxins and issues affecting the environment is crucial, as such toxins could be housed in your sustainable water bottle.
You know, until very recently, when you bought a plastic drinking water bottle, it would have a chemical compound called bisphenol A, BPA, and that turns out to be an endocrine disruptor. And then people started to freak out about this, and then companies started to make bottles that are made without bisphenol A. And so you can reach on a shelf and pick one that has it or it doesn't have it. Now you have some information, you have a choice, and you can pick the one that doesn't have it.
Have students been ignorant to the potentially crumbling ecosystems around them? Or have they simply just been too paralyzed and confused to act?
Apathy, when you know something is a problem and you do nothing, that's one kind of apathy. The kind of apathy I'm talking about is really more ignorant, like it's just plain old ignorance. It's not that they're intentionally being uninterested or uninvolved, it's just that nobody knows about it.
Tree huggers at UD can rejoice with the new task forces created to spread the word to support environmentally friendly actions around campus. Ultimately, however, it's about environmental education.
So it's not a student's fault that they're not aware of this, it's just that they are living in a community, living in a culture where the connection between their behavior and the results of that behavior are completely hidden from them. And it's not just students, this would be true for anybody.
There is no time like the present. We need to protect the world of today so we can have the world of tomorrow.
Young people very rarely think about taxes as something that affects their everyday lives, but rather just as something their parents need to worry about. But according to Mike Jackson, the budget director here at the University of Delaware, students are directly affected by state and federal taxes.
People view government as not affecting them, but they pay taxes. So paying taxes means it inherently affects you. And having a vested interest in what decisions get made at a state level, or really at any level, will indirectly affect how a person ultimately lives.
When young people remain uninvolved in the political decisions being made around them, the effects may be felt when it really starts to matter.
If somebody is 18 or 19 years old and has the ability to vote, but doesn't care or doesn't feel as though that their voice has a difference and just stands aside, there are decisions that get made that may affect their life 10 years from now, particularly if they stay in the state or in any state and have children and those children go to school.
Students can remain silent on political issues, or they can use technology to get their voices heard.
I think students have the ability to force dialogue through primarily through technology, of just being able to bring other voices to the table to engage them in the process. Unfortunately, government's not necessarily going to respond to, how do you say it, a text, Twitter, Facebook, anything, but through those means you're able to develop enough of a voice or a consensus to actually go to a legislative hall and sit and discuss during a committee hearing, share your viewpoints, and or let legislators those voices be heard.
Dr. Danigal Young recently made a speech about student political involvement and how social media outlets are becoming the new and modern way to feel and become politically connected.
So if I post something in my status that says how angry I am about something that was voted down or voted for at the state or federal level, if I put that in my status and that makes me feel like I am reaching out and starting a dialogue with my peers, then that's going to increase my sense of what we call political efficacy. That's going to increase how much I feel like I have a say, how much my voice matters in the political world.
Whether it be updating your Facebook status, tweeting your latest thought, or liking your favorite political candidate, it makes one wonder if this is the new way of student political activism. Professor Holden, professor here at the university, simply states her point of view on social media blurts.
A tweet is not a social protest.
While one person's tweet may not force the president to take action, there are ways to use social networking sites in a radical, revolutionary ways.
If you're somewhere else where situations are life and death, and the political climate is very dangerous, and you don't feel like you have basic human rights, or you see that there's another group in your country that doesn't have basic human rights, the way that social media is used is just going to be different.
With over 500 million people logged into Facebook, these sites have become more than just a social networking and more of a social utility. Never before have young people had such a unique and united outlet to spread messages, ideas, and stay focused on an active cause. Activism throughout the years has been traditionally centered around politics. The government is meant to work for the people, and that is why students are eager to use their new voices in order to change and create legislation. With this title as the first state, Delaware was one time a leader in politics. However, the Princeton Review named UD the fourth most politically apathetic campus in its 2006-2007 edition of Best 361 Colleges book.
We don't tend to see the same levels of consistent engagement and involvement in political activity that I think people sort of saw or thought that they saw in the 1960s and 1970s. So that sort of day-to-day involvement is not the same as it was. But then that may be a utopian vision.
It is true that you can find some students who still fit that mold.
I'm not active. I'm politically ignorant.
I don't vote because I don't feel like I'm informed enough to actually pick a representative.
But other students have been working hard to overcome that stereotype. In 2008, the campus came alive for the presidential election.
During the 2008 election with President Obama and John McCain, the campus definitely got involved. I noticed a difference from the year before, definitely in terms of political involvement. We hosted an election night here in Trabant that students could go to and watch various stations' coverage of the event, and I know the TV station was covering it and probably other news organizations.
I was a sophomore when Obama won, and I can remember the rallies were just as crazy as the killing of Osama bin Laden.
College students were one of the two major groups that put Barack Obama in office.
UD was again transformed into the epicenter of politics for the 2010 midterm election. The Delaware debates were housed here in Mitchell Hall.
Just having the debates being here on campus was really exciting, and I mean, like, media organizations from around the world came here to cover those debates. They were huge. It definitely probably was more important to UD students because everyone in the media was talking about it, and CNN came to cover it, the Situation Room, Wolf Blitzer. Like, that's exciting. Like, that doesn't happen every day.
Then students rallied outside of Mitchell.
Definitely students weren't politically apathetic. They were out on the green, they were protesting, they were holding up signs for the candidates that they wanted. They were out there before the debates, after the debates.
There are also individual students who are active in trying to make political changes. Junior Bill Humphrey is a co-founder of Delaware Right to Marry, a student group working to introduce a bill for marriage equality in Delaware.
So I said, this is an issue that a lot of students care about. It's an issue that a lot of college Democrats care about.
Delaware Right to Marry hopes that their marriage equality bill will be passed in the next few years. When it matters, students will band together to support a cause worth fighting for.
Specific issues will get people riled up and get them to write to their congressman or join a parade or go on a march.
Students will protest, students will have rallies, students will make signs and pass out flyers. People care around here. So I mean, I guess certain times things may not be going on, so it may seem like, oh, the campus is dull, it's not politically exciting right now. But when something is going on or when students feel passionately about something, we care, we do stuff.
But even if it was true that students don't care about the environment, taxes, or politics, does that mean they don't care at all? There are about 280 student organizations at UD. These organizations are active in issues from politics to community service to philanthropy.
Any of the RSOs on campus, whatever one it is, will take a stance. Even if it's not like in their constitution to take one, they usually have an opinion and will do something about it.
So despite our generation's bad reputation, there are students who are active and passionate about issues that they care about. UD senior Hillary Karpoff is the leader of the Tom's Shoes Campus Club. Tom's is a company with a very unique marketing campaign, One for One.
Well, Tom started in 2006. A man named Blake found it. He was traveling in South America and he realized all these kids didn't have shoes and it was really negatively impacting their life. And he never thought about it, and most people don't think about it. Shoes we just kind of take for granted. They're a style thing. It's not about like need. For every pair of shoes you buy, they donate a pair to a child in need in a developing country.
Karpoff organized this year's campus-wide event, One Day Without Shoes, where she and other students went barefoot all day to raise awareness for the Tom's cause.
But at the end of the day, like, you're exhausted and it hurts, but you feel good. Like, it doesn't matter that it hurts so much.
But Karpoff doesn't just work one day a year. She says she is always trying to spread the word about Tom's because she knows she is making a difference in a child's life.
You'll get like a quote from a little kid and a picture of him with his first pair of shoes just crying with joy, and you know you're doing the right thing. If you give a kid a pair of shoes, you're giving them the ability to go to school, to get water, to get food, to do all the things they need to do to get out of their situation and to get a better life. And that's all you can really hope for.
Junior Daniel Reyes was also inspired to help people in third world countries. He is the president of Students for Haiti, a group dedicated to raising money to help Haiti reach sustainable health care, starting with one hospital in Villa, Haiti.
The hospital was literally cracked down its foundation straight through. So it's completely structurally compromised, and it's just not a safe place to have any sort of health care. So our mission is to raise the funds to rebuild that hospital.
Their goal is to raise $70,000 for the hospital, and they have already raised $60,000 through events and fundraisers.
Currently, they have to go about an hour and a half on roads that are not suitable for anybody that's sick to the hospital in Fond-de-Blanc. So you hear stories from the doctors in the communities about people who just didn't make it because it's too far, the road's too rough, or they just don't consider it to be worth it to go there.
A few members independently planned a trip to Haiti over spring break to visit the site of the hospital. Reyes says he was touched by his trip and is now even more inspired to help.
We were able to see Vila Hospital. The need is great. We were able to interview doctors, talk with the community, spend time with the kids, which was fun. When you're there and you're with the people face to face, you know, it brings a human element to it that you didn't have before.
More than anything, Reyes says he hopes this hospital will help the people in Haiti to help themselves.
All the pieces are there. It's like the people are hardworking, the people are intelligent, the people are ready to build these communities. They just need the tools to do that.
And a few organizations are actively working to fight for the rights of people in need, some across the world and some right here in our own community. Senior Rebecca Centeno is the president of Uganda Untold at UD.
Our mission is to spread awareness about the longest running civil war in African history. It's been going on for 25 years in northern Uganda. And we also raise funds for our two charities, Invisible Children and Project Have Hope.
Centeno says her heart goes out to the people of Uganda who have been part of this war for so long, especially the children who are often kidnapped and forced to fight in the rebel army called the Lord's Resistance Army. But Centeno isn't just trying to raise awareness. In 2009, she and 5 other members lobbied for the LRA bill that called for U.S. help in disarming and demobilizing the Lord's Resistance Army.
We lobbied our butts off up in Wilmington, went to Washington D.C., we called them, we wrote letters, we did as much as possible, just this small group of us.
Their hard work paid off in the summer of 2009 when they attended lobby days in D.C.
We were able to meet both our senators because they wanted to meet us. They're like, I want to meet these like little group of individuals from this small little state, and I want to tell them that I'm going to sign this legislation.
Centeno says she will continue to fight for these people in hopes that one day they will have as many rights as us.
You can work with us and help bring these rights to these individuals that they deserve it. It is like we're born with it. No one should be taking that away from anybody.
Junior Matt Coogan is fighting a more local and personal battle. Coogan is the public relations director of Haven, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender student group on campus. Haven's goal is to provide a community for LGBT members and to spread awareness about the LGBT community to people all over campus.
We still live in a time and in a place where there is a need to go above and beyond, and there is a need to be visible, and there is a need to try and correct, a variety of problems that are, significant problems that exist for, an entire community of people.
But Haven's job doesn't just end with campus awareness. Coogan and the other members are also politically active.
We had a Chick-fil-A protest the other day because of their anti-gay policies. When Christine O'Donnell came to debate at UD, we had like a pride rally because of some rather unsavory comments she's made about homosexuals. So whenever there is an issue like that, Haven strives to fill the need. But I think this year in particular, Haven has made a special effort to be more politically engaged and to be more socially active.
Haven also fights in the battle for marriage rights for same-sex couples. This spring, they protested marriage inequality with mock ceremonies for students. Coogan says one thing that drives him is that these issues hit so close to home.
Just the energy of, fighting for something that affects you and that affects your friends and the very personal nature of it, it makes it really exciting. It makes it really rewarding to engage in.
Coogan says he will continue fighting alongside Haven until members of the LGBT community have equal rights.
What I think people don't realize is when there's discrimination or when there is, a lack of opportunity, it affects people's lives. Like these, we have people that are just trying to live their lives. They're just trying to, create some opportunity for themselves, and they can't do it. And it really does affect people's lives pretty negatively. And so when you feel like you're able to try and do something to correct that, it feels really fantastic.
These students, along with many others, prove that the stereotype of apathetic college students is not always accurate. Clearly, if you look, you can find students who are working hard to make a difference in and beyond their own community.
Just this spring, the UD campus has been buzzing with student activism in the form of rallies and protests.
As one American family.
Late on Sunday, May 1st, President Barack Obama announced to the world that U.S. Navy SEALs had killed 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden. Hundreds of students grabbed their American flags and swarmed onto campus to express their patriotism. The crowd flocked to Main Street, where they stopped traffic and created an impromptu parade. They moved across campus, and the students ended up jumping in the campus fountain. Chanting, singing, and fireworks could be heard into the early hours of the morning. On what was a quiet Sunday night, the news of bin Laden's death called students to celebratory action. In that same week, many students also made their voices heard by staging protests on campus. For the second year in a row, the student group Pro-Life Vanguard invited an anti-abortion group from Philly to campus. But the group didn't just come to share their anti-abortion message. They also brought with them large displays of aborted fetuses where they compared abortion to genocide. Some students say they felt these displays were inappropriate and offensive.
I felt really just like sick, not because of the images, but a lot of the genocide comparisons, and it's really racist because of that. It's really sexist because of that, and it sort of puts down the experiences of so many people, millions and millions and millions of people.
And this is an open campus. We have a daycare on campus. We have tour groups who are coming. On the whole, we just don't really find it to be appropriate.
So a group of students organized a peaceful protest to show their opposition.
We're handing out condoms, we're giving out free hugs, just a lot of different things to kind of show community and support without directing it at any one particular group.
We've given out hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of condoms, and we've had a lot of people join us. We have people playing guitar and prancing around bikinis and soaking up the sun, making posters, and it's been really good.
The protesters say it felt great to join together to take a stand against the displays.
We'll probably be out here next year and the year after, so whatever we needed, we'll probably be there.
And there's really this sort of like common bond. It's always really good when you have friends and strangers bonding together against something that you all think is really, really important.
Students also came together with signs and petitions to protest Chick-fil-A and their anti-gay spending. UD students often grab Chick-fil-A as a quick meal in Charbonne, but the protesters want to point out where their money is really going.
We're protesting against Chick-fil-A. We want them to be removed from campus. Chick-fil-A donates millions of dollars to anti-gay groups such as National Organization for Marriage, Exodus International, Focus on the Family, Pennsylvania Family Institute. They also donated money to the Prop 8 campaign in California.
The students say they hope their efforts will lead to Chick-fil-A being removed from campus, but ultimately, they hope that they inform the campus about their anti-gay spending.
I can at least hope to educate some people and have them make more informed choices about where they buy food and what their dollar actually is saying.
So what inspires these students to act, while others say they care more about school and drinking? What makes one generation of young people more active than the others? Where do students find the drive to take a stand and fight for something they care about?
In terms of how active undergrads are, I think it depends on the cause. It depends on the urgency. It depends on how much is at stake for them.
The college atmosphere has created an environment for students where they become so focused on school that becoming active for worldly issues fades into the background.
And I think it's really because there is a comfort level, particularly, at American universities, there's a comfort level. Your food is provided for, you're just thinking exam to exam, and we have created an environment where that is what is most important. Exam, 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 paper, paper, paper. And it kind of puts you in these blinders where you are prevented from having that aha, opening up your eyes and saying, okay, is it really important that I, get to the student union to watch this movie with all my friends? Or is it really important that I really try to understand what is a very complicated situation in Syria right now?
College students here, they're like so comfortable and they don't want to like move. They don't want to do something out of their like norm schedule.
But if students stay only comfortable, they may miss out on the chance to make a real difference.
It's very easy to come to college and just go through the motions and just go to class and try to get that A. But if you just go to college and just come out with just that, like what can you say you really did?
College students may be in a bubble, but sometimes it only takes one issue to scratch the surface and inspire them to act.
When they find something they care about, when they find a candidate, when they find a cause, they will come out in droves. And they invent new ways to do all kinds of things, to form all kinds of protests, to be active, to get their point across.
We want people to see that we have the ability to be dedicated to something. We have the ability to see something through and create a change that people can really acknowledge and see and feel.
So does our generation of students deserve this apathetic reputation? Maybe some students do need to care more about issues like the environment, taxes, and politics.
But one thing is for certain, when students are passionate about an issue, they will spring into action.
And our kids do try to make things happen, try to affect some kind of change, and they're gonna.
If we had everyone at this university doing something, it would be incredible, because universities are a great place to start this kind of thing, because you have all these resources and all these people that you can use for this type of work. And if everyone dedicated themselves to something, I think the world would be an incredible place.